Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 275, also known as Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week. So let's get started. I had a pretty lightish week this week, and that was 14 books. So number 14 for me was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 35. Just not a huge fan of this run so far. Very exposition-y, finding out who the Dark Ranger is and learning a little bit more about Heckle. But it's literally Heckle telling a story to Kimberly and you know, another Ranger. So I just wasn't a fan of the way the story was told, and I just haven't been able to attach to the characters because of how exposition-y and over-explaining it has been. But I do think that the artwork has improved a lot, but I do think the coloring kind of bogs it down a bit. It's a shade darker than I think it needs to be. So Mighty Morphin Power Rangers issue 35 gets 2 stars? I think it gave it 2 stars. Let me see. Yeah, 2 stars. Alright, moving on to number 13, which is Witchblade issue 11. This is a series that's just been really slow for me. I still like it because I like the character of Alex, and I like the Witchblade franchise, so I really wanted to, you know, continue to read this, but I think I'm going to be moving this digitally for now on, just because I haven't been loving the series, and like I said, it's been such a slow burn. And with this issue in particular, there's just a lot of characters they try to tell a story with, and I don't feel invested in all those characters, or half the time remember all those characters, so they haven't really left a lasting impression on me. So overall, I'm going to give this issue 2.5 stars, and that is number 13. Moving on to number 12. Which is Detective Comics issue 997. We are getting closer to issue 1000. As you can see, countdown to issue 1000. So with this one, we get to see Batman encounter another person that has helped him along the way to be Batman. And this is this version of Mr. Miracle. And he also has, like, kind of this demon thing going on where, you know, the same old Batman thinking he's, you know, destroyed the lives of others because of his adventure of being Batman. So he's doom and gloom, and we get to see his parents in this flashback slash nightmare. Not really a flashback, but a nightmare. And that's kind of the issue. And by the end, we get to see him encounter Hugo Strange because he believes that he's behind it now. So we get to see another character. But yeah, I like the idea of this arc, but haven't really been liking the actual adventure. It feels like, alright, let's get to issue 1000. I just want to see who is behind this now. So Detective Comics issue 997 gets 2.5 stars, and that is number 12, I believe. Alright, we're going to move on to number 11. I'm going to get a sip of water first. And number 11 is The Flash, issue 63. Another slow burn series where we get to see kind of the same thing happen with every issue. And you can kind of tell why after you read the annual. They've been stalling to get to the annual and then to get to the Batman crossover. So all these issues just been a giant stall to get there. And then finally in the annual we get more answers. So this is very much a filler issue to get to the annual. So if you need to pick one of these issues out of the week, get the annual instead of this Flash issue. But the artwork was a lot better in this issue than the annual. So that's a little disappointing. I wish they kind of switched the artists, but what can you do? So overall, I'm going to give this one, I believe, 3 stars. Yeah, I gave this one 3 stars. So that is number 11. Moving on to number 10, which is Heroes in Crisis, issue 5. I got the variant cover of this one this time. Yeah, a little lower than last time. I really liked last issue, and in this one, I just feel like they're really, again, taking it slow again. You know, they are stalling. Another DC title that's stalling a bit, where, you know, we have 9 issues now, so we're hopefully going to get closer to who is the killer or, you know, what actually happened at the sanctuary, but it's slow right now. And one thing I guess I was disappointed about was how quiet the reveal was with Lois. I really enjoyed that cliffhanger last issue, and then it takes until like probably halfway through the issue to see the revelation of that, and it's just a press conference. I'm like, oh, kind of wish we saw a little bit more emotion behind that. And then we got to see a lot of heroes that are more B-list to C-list heroes and how they've been affected, which was interesting, but not as cool as like seeing Batgirl and Jason or someone like that. But I did like that Batgirl and Harley are teaming up, so I've been enjoying that aspect of the series, something you wouldn't really expect. So, but yeah, not the best issue of this series, probably the most lackluster one of them all. Try and remember what happened in the end. We might have a visual. We have the rose here. So is that the killer? We'll have to see. So overall, like I said, giving this one 3 stars, and that is number 10? No, number 9, I believe. Nope, that was number 10. Moving on to number 9, which is Teen Titans Annual, issue 1. So I've been picking up the Teen Titans lately, and I've been enjoying it. I'm not as connected to these characters as I'm sure people that have been reading this series since issue 1. But I do like the team dynamic a lot, and I could see myself growing to like these characters. Now, the reason this is a little lower is because they are split into 2 stories. We get to see the Jason and Damian story, which I liked, but I'm like, how is this going to connect back to the Teen Titans? And then we actually do get the Teen Titans story, a little bit more about that newer character. I think her name's Jeannie. And then Miko's point of view, which is cool because I've always enjoyed her character. But also I will say one thing I don't like about the Teen Titans is that it's very cartoony artwork, very blocky artwork, so that's not particularly my favorite. Kind of wish it was a bit more detailed. But overall, it's a solid story. It's a bit expensive because it's an annual, but you do get some answers with the Jason stuff, and it looks like they are building up to another story with some of the other characters. So overall, I'm going to give that 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 8, which is Betty and Veronica, issue 2. A series that I like, I guess, but it's just the unnecessary drama that we've kind of gone with this Nick Spencer run that I haven't liked compared to Mark Waid's series. I loved the way they did the drama there, where I felt like everyone still were friends, but it still felt dramatic enough. It wasn't soapy. This is kind of soapy for me, and it continues to be with Betty and Veronica also, that they of course have to be in a fight and have this tension between each other, and it just all goes down to communication. If they communicated with each other, they probably would understand, but yeah, that unnecessary drama. And it depends how much or what type of fan you are of Archie. If you are like me and just enjoyed Wade's run, you might be in the same boat, or if you've always enjoyed Archie, of course this is some of the roots of this franchise, is the unnecessary drama between these 2 girls especially. But I just feel like they've grown past that. But there are moments that I feel, which is why it's not like worst pick or anything, is that there are moments that I feel like Betty and Veronica are friends and care about each other, and those are the moments I enjoy the most here. I will say the artwork is a bit simple. Kind of wish it was a bit more detailed, especially in facial expressions, but overall it's okay. So I'm going to give Betty and Veronica issue 2 3.5 stars. Alright, moving on to number 7, which is Batgirl issue 31, which I really like this regular cover, actually. I like the variant as well, but I went with the regular cover because we got this, you know, connecting the dots with the assassin. But with this issue, I'm not a huge fan of the political backdrop they've been doing, and I think that's what's bogged it down. But I do like the supporting cast members that the new creative team has been exploring, like Bard as a character. Is he good? Is he evil? What's going on with him? And then we have this new assassin villain that's been really interesting. Will this assassin find out more about Barbara Gordon? Especially because this story seems like Barbara's really conflicted with being Barbara and Batgirl and how to balance both and still be able to save the people that she likes or at least works with. So I've always enjoyed that aspect of any superhero story, so I've been liking that dynamic in this issue. And even though I don't love the political backdrop, I still like the supporting characters enough, and I think that helps progress the story. So overall, I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars. Not my favorite arc, but I still been enjoying this book a lot, and I like the new creatives team, or I guess just creative team now. They're not really new, but their voice on this character. And the artwork's really good, very like classic Batman style Bat Family artwork, so I've enjoyed that as well. All right, moving on to number 6, we talked about a little bit before, and that is The Flash. Annual issue 2, a lot better than the actual Flash issue this week, but the reason it didn't get to my top 5 is the art. Really not a fan of this artwork. Feels a little messy to me, a bit blocky, and you know, this artist has been on the title before, but I've never really enjoyed it. And there's this really good Iris scene in this issue that kind of feels ruined to me because of the artwork. Iris, you know, is really upset about Wally, and she finds out about Wally, and she, I don't know, like, she gets a little bit too angry. It just looks so weird. Her hair floats in the air. It's weird, the artwork, and I think it definitely took out the emotions that the dialogue had there. But with this issue, we finally get some plot progression, and they tie it into Sanctuary, which and I believe they actually did it with the Flash issue as well. I think they should have just done it all in here. I guess they just like, hey, pick up the Flash. But there's a lot that happens here. I love the Bart stuff where he knows something's happening, and in his heart-to-heart about Wally, we get Godspeed again. So we're really getting some forward momentum of who's behind this and what has changed in the DC Universe, kind of getting answers of that overall bigger story. And hopefully in the Batman Flash crossover, like the Button, we get a ton of answers and some good stories. Hopefully the artwork's a little better, though. So the Flash issue 2 annual was exactly what I wanted after Flash War. It just kind of took 12 issues to get there. It would have been a lot higher, though, if the artwork was a tad bit better. Alright, so that is number 6. Moving on to number 5. Number 5 is West Coast Avengers, issue 7. I just have fun with this series. I mean, there's now a pet shark. It's just hysterical, this book. And I was getting tired of the overall plot of these villains, but I got right back into it when we get to see that Derek Bishop is now behind some stuff. So what does this have to do with Kate's family? That's going to be cool to explore. I wasn't a huge fan of Novar here because I didn't feel they had much of a relationship in Young Avengers, so I never cared about their relationship. So here to kind of push it again, I'm like, I don't really care about that. But I do like some of the other relationships. I like Gwen and Quentin a lot. I loved it just friendship-wise, Hawkeye and Hawkeye, you know, Clint and Kate, where Clint is, you know, trapped and Kate actually does sign language to Clint. You know, it shows that she learned that for her friend, you know, for her partner. So I really liked that moment. It was definitely one of my favorite pages of the week and definitely one of my favorite pages of this, maybe this series. It was a good one. So I enjoyed that aspect. So it's just fun, and that's something I really like about this book is that it's almost a comedy book, and I don't mind that. We don't have enough comedy in comics. And also just love the artwork. The artist that did Power Rangers Shattered Grid is now the artist for West Coast Avengers, and his cartooniness but still realistic facial expressions really work for this series. So really glad that he's jumped on board here. So West Coast Avengers issue 7 is number 5, and that gets 4 stars. Moving on to number 4, which is The Amazing Spider-Man, issue 14. Another book I really wasn't a fan of the artwork for. Did not really fit this book, and I'm usually just not a fan of this this artist's style, just because it's very, I would say, graffiti-like, and it fits certain books well, but the mainstream books, it doesn't fit for me, like X-Men, he worked on for a little while, and now this Amazing Spider-Man story. It just didn't really fit for me. But I really liked the story here. The opener with Kraven kind of felt tacked on, but the rest of it, I love the lizard stuff and him connecting with his family, and MJ and Peter having dinner with him was a lot of fun. But then Aunt May just showing her badass side, and first of all, this guy hitting on her and saying, like, you go away, you were Jay's friend. And then having dinner with this homeless person that she ends up interacting with was really cool, and she uses this medallion to get the kids that were attacking him away, but with the artwork it was kind of hard to tell the kids were attacking him. Again, it was a little close up, some of the angles, but yeah, really love the story. I think Aunt May is a character that doesn't get to shine all the time, and again, show her badass side, so it was cool to see that. And then the lizard, and even Rhino, kind of having more of a you know, turning over a new leaf storyline for both of them. So, I like the story a lot, so I wish I could have put this higher because the story was so good, but the artwork is what brought it down a little bit. So I'm going to give this one overall 4 stars. Moving on to number 3. think you guys are going to be surprised by this, but Action Comics, issue 1007. I love the Jimmy and Lois stuff here, and the artwork is really good, as it has been. That's the one great thing about these Superman titles, is just that Bendis has been working with some really great artists on these issues. But I love Jimmy, because we don't get to see Jimmy enough, and he ends up going on a date with a lizard person, and goes to a cult meeting as a date, so that's very Jimmy, and that was fun. And then the Lois stuff, you get an emotional hit with Sam, you know, with her dad and herself, where finally Lois is ready to reveal that Clark is Superman, and he walks away. Sam walks away and says, I don't want to believe this. I can't handle this right now. So I thought that was a really good moment, and again, probably one of my favorite moments of the Bendis run so far, and usually it has to do with Lois. I've been liking, for the most part, when he writes standalone Lois. Sometimes when he writes Lois with Clark, it's not perfect, but I do like the standalone Lois stories a lot, and I think he really gets her voice right in this scene. So I really like those two parts. The part I didn't like was actually Superman, because I'm like, oh, this is kind of a weird part of the story that didn't really feel attached to anything else. And then Amanda Waller randomly comes into it all. So I'm like, oh, I guess that's setting up for the next issue, but it didn't really fit for this issue. So that was one of my negatives. But overall, I really like the Jimmy and Lois stuff, so I'm going to give this 4 stars. And moving on to number 2. And number 2 is Age of XMan Alpha, issue 1. So pleasantly surprised with this book. I haven't loved an X-Men book in a while, and usually it's just like a one-issue thing. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. But I think this whole entire event has a lot of promise. I honestly really want to pick up all the tie-ins, and even though they're referencing tie-ins here, it felt organic. It felt like, okay, cool, they're just showing what this world is, and if you want to follow more, you pick up these miniseries. So I like the way it was established. And one thing I gotta say, the artwork from Rosano is probably his best artwork, and I've been following his stuff for a long time, but this is his best artwork to date. And then the coloring is just so bright, it just works so well. So that's something I really enjoyed. And the story was really unique. You know, something that X-Men tends not to tackle is the brighter side. What happens when they get Utopia? So they get Utopia, and of course things don't go well. Even when humans and mutants are together in this world, people aren't allowed to love each other. It's like people kind of have barriers, and the X-Men kind of have to control that. Or at least the X-Men can't fall in love with each other, it looks like. Because Jean and Bishop, of all people, end up being in a relationship, which was a lot of fun. And then there's some other cool little side stories as well, like Nightcrawler being an actor. So I liked it. I had a really good time with this issue. It was refreshing. It was something new. With an old concept of just wanting to live the dream. You know, definitely a lot of old concepts of X-Men being explored here in a new way, and that's all I can really ask for with the X-Men. And I hope they stay on this track, and we'll see where this thing goes. So, overall, I'm going to give this one 4 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to my pick of the week. Number 1 is Miss Marvel, issue 37. This is the penultimate issue of G. Willow Wilson's run, and I really liked it. It's everything I like about Miss Marvel. We get to see the supporting cast members all spread out here, where Gabe and Kamala are taking over, you know, doing babysitting duties to take care of their nephew. And things go wrong, of course. They can't take care of this kid, so they end up asking one of the head people at their mosque. And, you know, he ends up knowing everything about kids, and he helps them out for a little while. And then, of course, a Miss Marvel thing comes up where New Jersey's underwater. And it's not about a supervillain, which I really liked. It was about the neighborhood itself and how, you know, the sewage, you know, wasn't able to, because of money, wasn't able to hold, so now all this sewage and water is in the town, and we get to see some really cool characters. We get to see Zoe and her girlfriend now, so that was nice, with the girlfriend's brother just having a date, and then the baby falls onto their stuff, and they're like, oh, this is Kamala's nephew, let's hand it over to the old guy from one of the other arcs, where he was a veteran, so he's helping out. You know, he has the baby in his hand, and then they give the baby, or he gives the baby to Nakia and Mike. Then Nakia and Mike see Kamala. So you really get to see everyone here, and the supporting cast members really be a bright side. And then the thing that really brought this to #1 pick was the ending where we find out that the guy who's the head of the mosque ends up getting a heart attack. And, you know, it was the one thing that Kamala couldn't prevent. Even if she was with him the whole time, she wouldn't be able to do anything. Now, he was okay, but this brought a kind of brighter path for their family that her brother is going to be the head of the mosque now. So it ends up being a really interesting story. And again, you have the emotional punch and character-drivenness that you love about Miss Marvel. You had the friendly neighborhood aspect of the character. So for me, this was a really great penultimate issue for G. Willow Wilson's closure of her series. So I enjoyed this one a lot. Overall, I'm going to give this 4.5 stars, and this is my pick of the week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Definitely go check out my Facebook page, my Twitter. Go check out my comic books, Like Father, Like Daughter, and They Called Her the Dancer, in the description below. There are links for that. And also, every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time is Frontline Live, where we talk about our favorite comics of the week and comic book news. So be sure to check that out as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Bye.